Hi Becky, how are you today?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you?
I'm very good.
Yeah, what do you want me to look at now or look at you?
Just look at the camera. So I wanted you to tell me how did you start traveling?
Um,
Like all the way from the beginning of your traveling up
all
to
the way
today.
from the beginning. I
Yeah.
started traveling when I was 19 and I actually went to Spanish school in Mexico because in my teenage years, I fell in with a not so helpful group of friends and it was a very negative environment, and so something within me was like, you need to leave, you need to get out after college, just go. And so I went to Mexico, and then I saw what the world was with encouraging people, and so I just carried on traveling. So I traveled for a whole year, like around maybe 4 different continents, and then I went home for university, but I'd already got, the classic love bug for traveling. So I went to go to uni and I traveled every time I could, and I got a job in tourism, and so I lived abroad every year in the summer. And then I did that for 3 years. After I did my degree, I did a master's where I went into international development and tourism. So I was always working and traveling for that. And then I left after that. I just wanted to go out. I wanted to go back. I kind of always had the vision that I was going home for uni and then I'm going to leave again. So I went home for uni and I left again. And then I just wanted to go everywhere, and I was really intrigued with non-governmental organisations and volunteer projects and farm work and development projects and everywhere in the world that I just continuously kept going. And I was a volunteer for like maybe 2 years, which is where I met you. and then I ended up living in Guatemala, where I lived.
Let's go back to Colombia. How did you get into Colombia?
Well, actually, one of my best friends actually said just go to Colombia. So I thought, okay. So he found the NGO that we met at, and I went to visit them, and then I ended up doing my research for my master's there. And so then my whole idea was to go around the world and then go back to Colombia to do additional work, but I never really made it because I got stuck in Guatemala.
So when you get to Colombia, what stage of your life were you in? Like
I had just finished my master's, or I was at the very, very, very end of my master's. So it was before I left properly, and I was still kind of like, I want to go. I don't know where I'm going, but I'm going.
So I would like to know, like, what did you do after Colombia? You worked in a NGO in Colombia for like a month.
I did a little bit of work for an NGO, but then after that, I went to Asia. I actually did a charity cycle ride in Asia for a couple of weeks, but after that, I stayed in Asia for a little while, and I did a lot of volunteer projects. So I worked for different farms, different NGOs, just to get life experience within the industry, life experience within travel. But then that took me, I got bored of Asia.
But what did you learn doing, like, volunteering?
What did I learn?
Yeah.
I learned loads of different skills. I learned how to travel and not spend any money. I learned all the different techniques that you learn doing all these projects, like communication skills, like actual skills, like how to build a mud house, and how the art of living without much, and just travel skills, deciding what you want to do, like following your little skills that you wouldn't think that you get, like following your intuition, taking lead of your life and just doing what you want to do because you want to do it, not because society says so. Going where you want to go, deciding whether that's good for you, just taking a lead of your life, not because your parents say you should do this one thing or your friend is doing that other thing, so you're going to do that. Like, you just take a lead of your life and you just go where you want to go.
So alright, then you went from Colombia to Asia.
Yeah.
Then how long did you stay in Asia for?
Probably about a year and a half.
Just doing volunteering?
Yeah, maybe 2 years, just like around, just traveling a bit and then volunteering, traveling a little bit, volunteering, and it just went on and on and on.
How was it?
Yeah, it was the best. Yeah, it was awesome. That's also when I did my first Vipassana meditation retreat.
So tell us about your Vipassana meditation, your experience.
It's the hardest thing I've ever done. I currently now have done 4. But
were you meditating before joining Vipassana?
Yeah, but not really. Like, yes, but no, not really.
So you didn't have any experience like in
No, I had no idea what I
center.
was doing. No,
Okay, so you just jumped in a Vipassana.
absolutely, why not?
So
It was the worst
where was
decision I
it?
ever made.
Where
But
was-
it was the best.
Where was it?
Jakarta, Indonesia.
Indonesia.
Yeah.
So tell us about your experience.
Passion meditation course is a 10-day silent course, and you basically turn up there without having any idea what you're doing, and you basically meditate for 10 hours a day for 10 days straight, no communication with anyone whatsoever, so you don't speak a word for 10 days, and you meditate. You wake up at 4 and you start meditating at 4:30, and then you just continue on until 9 p.m. I used to do that for 10 days. It's really, really, really difficult, but actually it really changed my life. It shifted a lot of things because of the type of person I was, who I came from, with all the people that I'd been hanging out with in England. It took me to a part of my life where I didn't always need to be so impatient and so pissed off about everything all the time, and it teaches you that you're not the victim, and actually you have the power, and something happens, it's not someone else's fault, it might be no one's fault, but you need to deal with it, not blame it on someone else.
Did you have that kind of thought where you were like doing Vipassana? It came that thought, or were you thinking about that, or you didn't think at all, and all these thoughts came after that?
No, it was provoked because it's a Buddhist meditation technique, so you don't just sit and meditate. Well, you do just sit and meditate, but you learn about Buddhism every single night for about an hour and a half, and so you learn the philosophy and the technique and everything, and it's combined into one. And the thing about Vipassana is that it's about impermanence, that nothing is permanent, and actually everything comes from within, which is Buddhist philosophy. Suffering is optional, but pain is inevitable, so it doesn't matter what happens, you decide whether you suffer or not, and that's actually a decision of your mind. So you can override that if you want to, but you've got to have certain techniques to know how to do that. And so on this meditation course you learn through experience, and it's a fucking painful experience, mentally and physically. However, it's also one of the best things ever because it can actually really change your brain at an unconscious level. So, which is where a lot of all the victimization, the low self-worth, the low self-empowerment lies. So when you start to do these things, you can elevate it.
So do you find that the beginning of your spiritual journey?
No, that wasn't the beginning. That was the beginning of me starting to take it more seriously, but that wasn't the beginning.
So, but what did you do after the Vipassana?
After the Vipassana, I went to Hawaii for 3 months and I did more farm work. So I travelled around Asia a little bit. Then I went to Hawaii and I actually volunteered at the Vipassana Centre for about a month. And then I volunteered on another farm and I made loads of really cool friends. Then I went back to do a second Vipassana several months later.
Where?
In Hawaii.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Was it better than the first one, or
no, it was
just as painful?
It was worse. It was harder because I knew what I was doing, and I went deeper. I felt more pain.
Okay.
Great.
Nice.
Oh, it was so hot as well. Basically, meditated in a tent and slept on a plank of wood.
So, but what did you do after that?
After that, I
But
went.
how did you get into yoga?
I got into yoga seriously through meditation.
Okay. Then you first meditated, then got into yoga. What was that?
I got into yoga about 5 years before doing meditation because I had lower back pain. Actually, I got into yoga because I had lower back pain, and my mind was just insane.
But when I met you, you didn't do any yoga, I think. Actually,
No,
not in
but-
front of us.
Is it okay to take this chair?
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
No, I didn't do yoga. I did do yoga asana, but the way that you look at life, in the sense that the way in which you approach certain things in life, or life as a whole, is yogic. So you don't always need to do the movement as in like asana, hatha yoga. You don't always need to do that to be practicing yoga. Yoga is actually a life science. But I was practicing in England before I went travelling.
Okay.
But then I went travelling and it was just like, I don't really care about it. If I want to do it, I'll do it. If I don't, there's no space, there's no time. I wasn't really in it seriously. I was like, it was just another thing in life. Yeah.
All right, but I didn't get why did you want to travel so much? Just have fun, or did you have like
No.
that thing in your mind that I need to grow up, I need to, I don't know where I am, I'm lost, what, or
My
was just like
thing, I didn't want to be in
having
the
fun.
UK. I absolutely detested the UK. Like, I genuinely did not want to live in the UK. I genuinely didn't want to be in the UK. I just wanted to go out. I wanted to see what there was in the world. I wanted to find somewhere that I felt I belonged, because I didn't feel like I belonged there in the UK. And I didn't like it, and I just wanted to go and explore the whole world, but also go and see where I can work, where I can live, who I can meet, and make the most of my life, rather than just sitting in the UK, getting a normal job, hating my life, and feeling like I'm a victimization to the whole society, which is generally how a lot of people feel, which is not that nice.
Yeah, but were you happy during your traveling?
Partially.
Why partially?
Because always there was always an undertone of what the hell are you doing? Like, why are you doing that? Like, you don't have a job, you don't have really a purpose, you're just going from country to country, from continent to continent. Your money is like trickling down, you know, at times pretty bloody fast. And you know, you meet people and you do things and you suddenly find a purpose, and then everything's transient in the travel world, and you move on and they move on, and there's still no purpose, still don't know what you're doing. So yeah, partially I was really happy because I was developing and I was learning what I did like, what I didn't like, where I wanted to be, where I didn't want to be, the things in international development that I agreed with, the things in international development that I didn't agree with. But the undertone of that was that actually deep down, there was always that lost feeling. Like, oh, I don't belong anywhere. Oh, I don't know what I'm doing. And it wasn't an option to go back to the UK, so I just kept on going. This country, that country, this country, that country. And so you just keep going on with the hope that one day it would just end, that I would find somewhere. Yeah.
All right, so we are now in Hawaii. What did you do after Hawaii?
After Hawaii,
you spent
I went
3 months there?
Yeah, okay, so after Hawaii, I went to, my goal was to go back to Colombia. So the cheapest way to do that was to fly to Mexico and then travel down through Central America and jump over the border, well, fly from Panama to Colombia. So I met some people and we were just partying and having fun after volunteering for so long. I just had some fun. And then I got stuck in Guatemala and I found an internship, and I moved to somewhere called Lake Atitlan and I worked for an NGO. So then I met a little group of expats and they became my little family, and I ended up living there for a year. And I worked for about 6 or 7 different NGOs.
What were you doing
area.
there? What were you doing there?
Working for non-governmental organisations.
But what kind of?
Different ones. Some were more social enterprise, some were more water projects, some were more nutrition projects, some were gardening projects, some were education projects, some were student volunteer projects, and different stuff.
Are you doing that for yourself or for the local community?
Both.
Both?
Yeah.
How come?
Because I wanted to work in international development, so I wanted to get the most experience that I could. I wanted to see how it worked, I wanted to see how it didn't work, I wanted to be exposed to it, but genuinely wanted to help people, because I always felt, after all this feeling lost, having no purpose, I always still felt like I'm so privileged, even though I feel lost and I don't know what I'm doing with my life and I'm just randomly going around the world. I'm very privileged to be able to just go around the world, so I wanted to go and see what other lifestyles were like and see how much what I could do. And not like the big Westerner coming in like, oh, I'm going to save you, but there are definitely things that we can help with, like we as just people in life. So I just wanted to see.
How did you help them?
Huh?
How did you help them?
Well, in multiple different ways, just by doing little projects and little things with local communities and local companies, and yeah, just like depending on the job role, depending on the benefit.
So then you were in Guatemala. We traveled to Costa Rica.
Oh, so that's when I then decided to pack in Guatemala. So before that, I actually started teaching yoga randomly on a rooftop, and I had no.
You didn't mention India. So before that, you went to India, though.
No, I've been to India, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So
but how did you start to teach yoga?
So when I moved to this place in Guatemala, these little group of ladies were like saying, "Oh, we're gonna start a weekly yoga thing," and I was like, "Oh, I love yoga. Yes, like amazing, good. I'm finally like have somewhere to live. I'm not leaving in 2 or 3 weeks. I have people that are here all the time. I have a job. You know, it's like create a little life. Even if it was just for a year, I felt like finally I could just do normal things, and that's something you take for granted when you travel." So we started teaching, and I turned up to the studio, which was a rooftop with metal rods coming out of it like every 2 foot. And I was looking around, and I didn't know these people yet, and I said, "Where's the teacher?" And they were like, "Oh, there is no teacher." And I was like, "Okay, how are we going to do it?" So the idea was that someone shared whatever they knew. The next week, someone else shared whatever they knew. The next thing, someone else shared whatever they knew, and just so on and so on. So my friend Michelle, she did whatever she knew, and then she asked who was going to do it next time. Nobody put their hand up. So I was like, "I'll do it." Went home and YouTubed what is yoga. Googled like the anatomy of the body in Spanish. Googled yoga sequence. Just did a bit of research as what is yoga. Blah blah blah. Went the next week and just thought about, okay, who do I know that's done yoga, thinking back to what they did, and I just did some random movement, like I don't know what I did. I had no idea. Anyway, we did the class and it was so nice, like the community part of it was so nice. So then I said, "Who's going to do it next week?" And nobody put their hand up, and I was like, "Shall I just do it next week?" And everyone was like, yeah. Okay, so I went back home, Googled, okay, seriously, what is yoga? What is yoga asana? Like what sequence? I just watched YouTube, so I started learning how to share it, not really knowing what it was. Did that for 3 or 4 months, and it was when people came. I remember my one of my friends, Jill, who is now one of my dearest friends. She came to me and said how much she loved practicing.
Okay.
And it wasn't that I had done it, it was that I had been a part of facilitating a space that had created that feeling for someone, but they had come. And I started to really like that exchange of energy that was towards health and wellness, but based on someone else's self-motivation. So when my job finished, I didn't want to leave Guatemala, but I didn't want to work in that company. So I found another job, but I had a couple of months in between. I was so intrigued about yoga, so I went to India to go and study, which is the cliche thing to do. It is the cliche thing to do. I wouldn't genuinely say it's the most beneficial thing to do if you only do that.
The cliche thing wouldn't be a cliche if it wasn't true.
I mean,
so
it
cliche
is true.
thing
It
is true, though.
I mean, it is true. Okay, it is true, but it is the cliche thing. Oh, I went to India to study, but you have to study like everywhere with all different people. Anyway, that's a different story. So I went to India, and then I went back to Guatemala, but I stopped.
No, how long did you stay in India for?
A month.
Just a month?
Yeah, just a month. I just went to do a teacher training course and then come back.
All right.
Like a basic course.
All right.
And then came back. But I got called to go to Ecuador to work for another non-governmental organisation in the Amazon rainforest, just looking after students, taking them around, translating, doing whatever, like logistics coordination. That's where I first started teaching, if you want to say my first official yoga class, like having actually studied what it is. So then I was teaching there, went back to Guatemala, got a different job, was travelling all over
So
Guatemala.
you went to Ecuador then?
I went to Ecuador, travelled around in Ecuador for work for 2 weeks, started teaching this group of volunteers in the Amazon jungle, then went back to Guatemala, worked for a different NGO where I was looking after student groups who were going around to help work little projects with local communities and other little projects. And I was teaching them, and I was travelling all around Guatemala, doing that job, but also teaching them yoga. So I did that for maybe about 7 or 8 months, and then I decided, right, I want to leave international development and I want to pursue yoga. I liked it so much. It gave me more, and I felt like it was more purposeful for me to share that and help people on an individual basis. It doesn't matter who they were, rather than helping larger communities and larger projects where some of the benefit filters out and you don't really know where it goes. because then after that I went to Panama. So then I volunteered again in another eco lodge, but I didn't volunteer doing random jobs. I taught yoga twice a day. So after that, that's when I decided, right, I want to learn more. I've been teaching now for a year. I want to learn more, I want to study more. What am I going to do? I've got no money. So I was supposed to go to Bolivia. I had a flight to Bolivia, and something inside, like my intuition, just pulled me back to the UK. And I was very surprised because I'd only been away for maybe 3 years, and I thought I was going to be away for 10 years, for 50. I thought I was never going to go back. I mean, like the second time. So then I was like, right, fine, just follow. And I always have trust, always have faith in that your intuition will lead you to where you're supposed to go. So I was like, okay, home it is. Went home, absolutely hated it. Absolutely detested it. It was the worst 2 months of my entire life. Just hated it. I feel like I didn't belong. My friends were just like still there, but I was in a different place. I was so culture shocked from going from Latin America to there. I missed speaking Spanish. I missed having something that was like purposeful. Like I missed the type of people that you meet. This is also a cliche thing to say, but it's true. The type of people that you meet in that kind of realm, in that kind of lifestyle, are very different to the type of people that just stay at home. And I was like in limbo, and I was at home, like in my parents' house. I'd been living in Guatemala doing all this stuff, and I had to go home to my parents' house. But thank God that happened, because that was then drove me to the point of I can't stay here and I can't do this. So my last resort wasn't my last resort. I thought if I really am interested in yoga, I need to go back now and I need to study more. So I spent about £5,000 in 5 minutes on flights and yoga courses and whatever, and then a couple of days later I went back, I left.
So what year are we in?
Pardon?
What year are we in?
Oh God, I don't know. I genuinely don't know.
So I think we have just this first hack, which is like you found something that you enjoy and you spend like a lot of money to actually become master in it.
There's two things there. Okay, if you want to go down the life hack road, there's two hacks there. Number one is pursue your passion, end of story. It doesn't matter what people say, it doesn't matter what your parents think, and it doesn't matter what your friends are doing. Pursue your passion and everything will be okay. The second thing is use your intuition as your greatest superpower. If you don't, it doesn't matter what your passion is, you'll go the wrong way. It doesn't matter what society says you should do within that passion. You follow your intuition, and as long as you do that and you align yourself with that intuitive pull, you'll be fine.
And third, you have to be a master of it.
First of all, you have to take a leap of faith that is the right thing. Then you have to know your shit. Like you learn it along the way, but you have to commit yourself to learning and developing in that thing, because passion will only take you so far. You have to get educated in that thing as well. And then fourth thing, you have to know, not believe. Believe is not enough. You have to know that thing, whatever it is the right thing for you, and that you just have to know that thing is certainty within that thing. It doesn't matter if you know how you're gonna get to that place, but you have to know that you'll get there. And you don't even have to know what that place is, but you have to know that you will develop in that sphere of that thing that you have passion for, that you're educating yourself within, you're taking a leap of faith in, with the certainty that you'll know you'll develop in it, and then you'll get there. Might take years, but you'll get there.
So you went back home and you were searching for yoga courses and meditation courses. You spent $5,000 on it.
Yeah.
Where did you go?
I went to Bali, which is also cliche. No, I just went because that's where the course was. So I went to Bali to do 2 courses, and then I went back to India to do another advanced course. But because I had been teaching in really random places, like in the jungle, on top of mountains, in random little communities in Guatemala, like on rooftops, like just really random place where I didn't have any yoga props. I didn't have like a serene, beautiful yoga studio which had everything, like done for you, where it was quiet. I had poisonous snakes, spiders, like wind, rain, beaming hot sunshine, all these things that, you know, make you have to be creative, improvise, spontaneous and grounded to be able to share this thing called yoga. When I then got to India, what was being shared, to my experience, wasn't up to standard of what I believe a yoga teacher should be taught at that level. So I kept that in my brain. So that's one thing. I was on the advanced course, and one class was being shared, and the teacher was absolutely amazing. He's one of my dearest friends now, absolutely amazing. However, nobody got it. No, just people didn't get it. So I explained to my friend what it meant in terms of yoga. Like, I made the link, and my friend then said, you need to do that to the rest of the class. And I was like, no way, I'm a student. I'm not here to like share anything. I'm a student.
So are we in India or in Bali?
We're in India. Bali was just, I went to Bali, went to India.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so all of it.
India was after Bali then. You went to Bali.
I went to Bali and had the realization that what was being shared wasn't enough. It wasn't. I left with a massive gap of why isn't this being shared? Why isn't that being shared? Why are they not talking about this? Why are they not talking about this? It would be beneficial if X, Y, Z, A, B, C, 1, 2, 3.
Were you like in your mind that you would become like an entrepreneur?
No.
Of that, or you just saw gaps?
No idea. I just saw the gaps. I just naturally
right.
saw the gaps, and I just naturally thought, if I was to do this, I would do A, B, C, which links into 1, 2, 3, and X, Y, Z. Like, that's just where my brain went. I didn't think about it, but it was always in my mind. When I went to India, the same thing. When I thought about the basic course I had done, same thing. I thought, why are all these gaps here? And I spent more time in India, and I would meet this person from that yoga school, that person from that yoga school, student, teacher, and I would just talk. How is your anatomy? How is your course? How is your this? How is your that? And every single conversation would lead to the same conclusion. There were huge gaps that people weren't being taught, and I didn't think anything of it. I was like, oh, that's a shame, but okay, whatever. Like, that's fine. But so when in the course, when my peers, my student peers, didn't get it, and I explained it to my friend, and she said, you need to sit there in class and explain. I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. The owner then, the boss, the owner, the lead teacher, whoever, she came to me and said, oh, I've heard you want some classes, because my friend went to go and tell her that I should have a class. And I was like, not really, but I mean, they don't really get it, so if I could just explain it, it might make sense. So she gave me 2 hours. So I taught 2 classes in the course that I was sitting, and they were theory classes. So this is the first time I'd ever really taught a yoga theory class. And I just explained it and linked it and did a little workshop and gave them homework and, whatever. And then after the second one, I realised how much I loved talking about the why, the hows, the why nots, the how nots, the let's talk about things, and everything that's behind the actual yoga practice, the yoga asana practice.
Thinking in business.
No, not in business.
But that's when you become to think like a business girl, like an entrepreneur. Because you saw gaps.
But I didn't realise it at the time.
Yeah, you didn't realise it, but that was the start of your business career, don't you think?
Yeah, that was the beginning, but I didn't realise it. So after that, I then went to the boss saying, have you got any teaching opportunities? Full well knowing that they do internships, but I didn't want to be an intern. But I also didn't really want to be a teacher, because I thought, how do these teacher trainers that live here and work for that school, how do they get there? There must be some level of like this is people's lives, this is people's full-time job, to live in a place like this, to work in an entity like this, to train these people to teach yoga. And I thought, this is a lifestyle that I didn't realise existed, but clearly it exists because look how many yoga schools there are, and clearly it's thriving and it's very successful, but look how many gaps there are, because look at all the things that I still don't know and that I want to and need to know, and look at all the comments that are coming from all these other people, that there clearly is a massive gap, and it's not just within this school or the other 2 schools I went to, it's within all of the schools because everyone is saying the same thing. So after a meeting with the owner, she then asked me to come back and be a teacher trainer. So I was like, okay, cool. Started teaching her in that school 2 months later, and I went back with the what's it called, the expectation that I would be taught how to do that. As in, I would be given some level of guidance. This is what you do, that's not what you do. I'd be given some sort of manual, teaching methodology, teaching technique, some support, something, so anything. Because when you're going up to that level, I believe you should be given that, that support and or that education. Turned up 2 months later, absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. Just chucked in at the deep end. And that's fine if you're intelligent, but if you're stupid, or if you think you know more than you do, which a lot of people, I'm sorry, let's just get real for a minute, a lot of people do, and you're not given that, then what is the quality of the standard going to be like? Mm-hmm. It's not always going to be like, there is no standard of quality. So then same thing happened. I started teaching and I went to the art of teaching, which is my real passion of yoga. Yoga is the art of teaching. So
is it what? Sorry?
Art of teaching, like teaching methodology, like why you might teach in a certain way and why you might not teach in a certain way, blah blah. Went to the art of teaching sessions, and because I had been teaching in all these random places, like still to this point I had never taught in a yoga shala, in a yoga studio, but I had already been teaching for several years, and I went to her classes, and at the end I said to her, why did you not talk about this? Or like, what do you think about this? Why did you not talk about this? Blah blah blah. And she was like, I don't know what you're talking about. Do you just want to teach it? And I was like, okay.
In an offensive way, or she just asked to teach?
No, she was like, I don't know, because I think, and we had spoken about this actually, is that she had only just ever taught in a yoga studio. So all the things where my brain were going, she had never had to think about. All the places that my brain was going into how you can improvise, how you can be creative, and how you have to, make do with what you don't have to still teach in a safe and secure way, she never had to think about, because she had a studio which was quiet and beautiful and everything was there. So I in the end started teaching the art of teaching, and then it just went on and on and on, and back-to-back courses month after month after month, and then we moved up to the mountains, and then it was the end of the season and my boss asked me to write my own course in yin yoga.
Your boss?
My boss.
Who was your boss back then?
My boss was the owner of the school.
Okay.
Yeah. So she asked me to write my own course in yin yoga, and I was like, I was teaching mainly art of teaching, hatha and yin yoga. But as the months went on, I taught less hatha and more yin, and then I just basically yin became my thing through chance, kind of, but also because I'm sorry. But anyway, and I was like, you want me to write a whole course? Like, you want me to teach a whole course? She was like, yeah, you've got summer months to do it. So, okay, off I went, knowing that my next course is going to be my first solo course, like my course, my content, my everything is going to be in December. So I had a few months over the summer to write it. And that was my chance to go, okay, where are all the gaps? I'm writing this course based on all the gaps, all the things that I wasn't given, and filling that in with my experience, I'm going to write it on that. So then I created a 100-hour yin teacher training course that I taught through the school first.
But did you have the background to write the course, or you just research?
Oh yeah,
before?
I had the background.
Did you?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, teaching, studying, researching, everything, experience, talking. When everyone was in Goa, like going out for a beer or going out to do this thing, I and one of my friends now, who is an osteopath, we were the two people that were researching and debating and discovering and learning at an insanely rapid speed in comparison to everybody else who was just going to teach and then thinking nothing more of it.
What were your feelings back then? Like, how did you feel about that when she asked that?
I felt, number one, so insanely overwhelmed that I was like, how the hell am I even going to do this? And very proud of myself that several years before I was wandering around Guatemala going, I don't know what my life is about. And something that I'd really found my passion in, felt like I was good at it, the people had told me I was good at it, they really enjoyed it. And then the fact that actually someone had put their faith in me when I clearly didn't have it in myself at that time, that was quite astounding. So off I went, taking another leap of faith, doing this thing, putting this course together, and it inspired me to study more, teach more, learn more, be more alert, fuel the development based on this passion even more. Like, there is no limit. Study. So I studied, preparing, went back, started teaching again the next season, and then it came around to a couple of, a month before, not even a month, 3 or 4 weeks before the course, the first course that I've been working towards for so long. And my mother passed away. And I went home. And then...
Before you had finished it?
No, I'd finished writing it. I was about to start teaching it the first time that I was supposed to teach it. And my mum passed away very, very, very unexpectedly. And I intuitively felt like I needed to go home. And my dad was like, no, she's in hospital for a stroke, but she's coming out. Don't come, don't worry. And I was like, no, I'm leaving right now. Pick me up at the airport in whatever time. Got home to the airport, and it was in the airport that he told me she had another stroke and that she was going to die. So we went straight to the
hospital?
The hospital, and 3 days later she died.
So we had the chance to see her before she died?
Yeah, so she was paralysed, so I could speak to her, but she couldn't speak at me. And it really put a lot of things into perspective. So I then had a fork to come, another fork. You can go travelling, you go to this fork, that fork, there's always a fork in the road. This was the biggest fork in the road that I've ever experienced. And the fork in the road was, do I either go back to India the day after my mum's funeral and teach this course, which is insanely demanding, having no idea what the hell I'm doing really, because while I've been teacher trainer for a year or so already, I had been doing it for someone else's course with someone else's structure, and I was only doing 1 or 2 classes a day. I wasn't teaching 6 classes a day, 10 days straight with my own content. Or do I just not do it? Do I just stay at home and that's that?
So, wait there. That's the chapter for the next interview, which is about 4 months from now.